This is the Contax Zeiss 28mm f2.8 lens. Note the red T, which indicates the multi-coating that Zeiss applied to the glass in their lenses to reduce internal reflections. Now this Contax has a CY mount, that is a Contax Yashica, and I've added an earth adapter to it to enable it to fit Canon EF, or I should say, to fit the Canon mount on my Blackmagic 6K Pro. Now the lens is fully manual, so there's no electronics to worry about as far as the adapter goes. The adapter is simple and relatively cheap. Now the earth adapter that I have used is not the cheapest on the market. You can get cheaper. Now be warned though that this adapter, once it's attached, is not easy to remove. This hard to access lever locks it in place, and I'm told has to be held back to rotate and remove the adapter. And this seems to require more than the usual two hands. I've not been able to remove the adapter, and I'm not willing to risk damage to the lens. It's not really an issue at this time, unless, of course, I want to sell the lens. Then I'll take another look. Now, although the 28mm covers full frame as a wide-angle lens, it's actually a standard lens for the 6K Pro, based on the standard lens having a focal length equal to the diagonal of the image format. Now this lens bears the inscription Distagon, as you can see, and this refers to one of Zeiss's lens designs. There are others like planar, tessar, sonar, biogon, flectagon, and more. The Distagon is a retrofocus design. Now, a retrofocus design increases the distance between the back of the lens and the image plane. Why is that necessary? Well, before the mirrorless camera revolution, the DSLR had a mirror box. That's the reflex part of DSLR, digital single lens reflex, which reflects the light up to the viewfinder. And that limits how close the back of the lens can get to the film or sensor plane. The Distagon just means retrofocus wide angle. It doesn't indicate a specific design in terms of lens elements. The Distagon was first introduced in 1952 as an f2.8 60mm lens for Hasselblad. Now the Contax Zeiss 28mm f2.8 first appeared in 1975 in the AE version. That's aperture priority exposure, I think. In 1984, the MM or multimode version was introduced. The MM version has the f22 marking in green. It also has a pin on the back used by the camera to close down the aperture on pressing the shutter. The adapter that you use has to press that pin down when it's attached, otherwise the aperture ring will be inoperative. Now physically, the lens is not particularly big, but it is by modern standards quite heavy, about 230 grams, being of all metal construction, no plastic. It has a feel of pure quality, the weight, the finish, the precision of the movements. When a tool is a pleasure to use, you will do better work, I find anyway. The focus ring moves smoothly and evenly, as you can see, with just a right amount of resistance. The total focus throw is about 160 degrees, but most of that relates to in close less than 1 meter. The practical range of focusing which I would normally use is between 1 meter and infinity, and that goes from roughly there to there. That's a very small movement. Now this shot is focused to the minimum focus distance, which is about 25 centimeters, and it's at f2.8. You can see the flare performance. Blue flares can be provoked if that's your thing. You can also make some judgments in this shot about out of focus quality, bokeh, here. Now, bokeh is something that wasn't really around when I was young. It seems to have been invented around about 1997 by a photography blog writer. And it refers it doesn't just refer to the out of focus. It refers to the quality of the out of focus areas. But most people talk about bokeh these days when they want to get some kind of deformed out of focus areas, like something swirling around or stars or things like that. I prefer the out of focus areas to be smooth and out of focus. That's it. Now, most of the time, I use DaVinci color management, but sometimes a LUT is a suitable quick and dirty alternative. In this particular shot, that's what I've used. I bypassed color management and applied Matteo Bertoli's Buttery LUT, the natural 709 plus contrast LUT. There's no other processing. I did, in my earlier days of color processing or whatever, color grading, I tended to use LUTs. I thought they were a magical thing. But after, you get a whole package of LUTs and you run through the whole lot and you think, none of those is really what I want. Most of them are awful. Some of them might be close, and you've got to do further adjustments. So these days I use DaVinci color management, and I just let DaVinci apply the necessary color space transform automatically. And then I'll do some necessary adjustments. Generally, it's just tweaking exposure, tweaking the color balance, and adjusting contrast and saturation. Nothing wonderful. Now, the filter thread is 55 millimeters, so step-up rings are going to be necessary to fit more standard 77 millimeter filters, or whatever size filter you have in your collection. I've done a little comparison here between the Contax Zeiss 28mm set at f4 and the Canon 1635 f4 set at 28mm. All of the following clips were shot on the Blackmagic 6K Pro in B-RAW 12.1 and processed in DaVinci Resolve with DaVinci Color Management. The first clip was shot on the Contax Zeiss 28 at 25 frames per second, ISO 400 and f4. So this is the Contax 28mm at f4. This second clip was shot on the Canon 1635 f4 at 28mm, 25 frames per second, ISO 400, and wide open at f4. And this is the Canon 1635 f4 at f4. No processing was done on either. Lighting was a small rig LED through a softbox upper camera right, like this one, plus the practical table lamp on camera left here. The white balance is the same setting for both at 5600, which is what the LED is set for. Now you can see a difference in the rendering of skin tones, and the Contax clip is distinctly softer. It's apparent that although both lenses were set to f4, the Canon clip is darker. Now, it's a problem with photography lenses. F-stop aperture is not a consistent measure of the amount of light coming through the lens, because f-stop is a mathematical calculation, not a measurement. Now, this is the reason why cinema lenses are rated in t-stops rather than f-stops. It also is one of the reasons why cinema lenses are more expensive, because they've got to be tested to see exactly how much light is coming through the lens. Two different cinema lenses set to the same t-stop can be relied upon to provide the same exposure. Now, vignetting can come into the picture as well, pun unintended. I'm told that the maximum difference you can expect in f-stop versus t-stop is about 1/3 of a stop. So it's not an issue in photography generally because it's pretty easy to adjust for. In big movie productions, however, there might be a lot of these adjustments to be made, so it's much better if everything is consistent shot to shot. Now this next clip was also shot with the Contax handheld on the 6K Pro. Now I think it was wide open at f2.8, though looking at it, it looks more like f4. And it was off speed at 50 frames per second, ISO 640. Lighting is the setting sun to the left front, with an LED monoblock in front to get a highlight in the eyes, which otherwise would have been dead. Some fill light was reflected off the building behind me, but no real effort was made to achieve the lighting in this image. Now you can see there is some loss of contrast with the sun being to the front. Normally, I'd do some adjustments to increase contrast in post. So here is the same clip with some processing applied. Not very much, mind you, but just a little. Focus breathing. Yes, there is some focus breathing. That is, there's a minor zooming effect as focus distance changes. Here's what it looks like at f4. Now, does it matter? Well, it depends on whether you change your focus distance during a shot and by how much. For comparison, this is the Canon 1535 f4 set to 28mm, and you can see there is some focus breathing here, but it's relatively negligible. Chromatic aberration. Well, other reviews I've seen state that this lens has significant chromatic aberration, but it's always difficult for me to see it on YouTube. Now you should be able to see some here on the sides of the out-of-focus wooden pylon in this clip. It should look green on one side and red on the other, which is typical of chromatic aberration. Though, as I said, it can be hard to see. So, well, if you can see it, good. And if you can't see it, that's even better. Now, with the following clips, I'd normally do some color grading to them, but for the most part, I've left them pretty much untouched to show you just how the lens performs. So, what do I think of this lens? Well, modern glass and modern sensors with the excessive in-camera processing behind them, especially on Sony, strive for an unnatural sharpness, optical perfection. If you're looking at buying a vintage lens, well, optical perfection is not what you're looking for. So for that reason, it's not really worth testing a vintage lens for its sharpness in the corners and all those other technical things that people love to do in lens reviews. That's not what you're after. You're after a look. You're after something that takes the digital edge off. and can add some more interesting color and contrast rendering. Now, the older coatings and internal flocking in vintage lenses allow for more flare effects than you would expect to see in a modern lens. And this can be a desirable thing. Some people like to use a really bad lens to get really bad flare, just to be different. The Contax, on the whole, the look is not extreme. It does not look like a modern lens, but it's not outlandishly far away. Now, can anybody actually tell the difference with the end product, though? Now this, I think, is a very good question. Regardless of the superb quality, high-resolution cameras and lenses used to produce video, the viewing platform is likely to be a phone or a tablet or a laptop, possibly, but very rarely, a television display. Now, televisions have so much processing in them that you're certainly not going to see all the effort you've put into your look. But on the phones and tablets, I don't know. And you know, almost certainly, the video will be hosted by a platform like YouTube or Meta or Vimeo, and all of them apply their own processing, compression processing, and so forth, to make it fit their storage and playback requirements. You may find that those beautiful, delicate looks that you have put into your product are quite lost in the end result. The subtle look of a vintage lens might well be completely lost by the time the video hits the viewer's eye. You may agree, you may not agree. Let me know. Now, I haven't modded this lens. All I've done is to put this adapter on so it fits my 6K Pro, and I have added this gear wheel. This is a small rig gear wheel. It's a slip-on, and you can get these in various sizes from small rig. So this one fits the lens quite snugly. And that's about it. I'll have to use step-up rings if I want to put a filter on here, as I've said before. But no other modding. Now, I tend to think that most of what you get out of modding is not worth the cost and complexity, I guess. You're going to finish up with basically the same lens, and you're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars getting it fully modded. You get something that looks like a cinema lens, and that might be what you're after, but you know, that once again, that's something that I don't think is worthwhile. You may disagree. You know, let me know. Now, in conclusion, I like the small size and high quality of manufacture of this lens. I like the feel of it, the weight. It certainly has a less digitally cooked look than modern lenses. The difference is fairly subtle, though, and sometimes I think people talk themselves into seeing something that's not there. Though I have a couple of Sony cameras, like the FX30 and a full set of Sony autofocus primes for it, the camera that I will reach for by preference is the 6K Pro, because I like using it and I like the look of what comes out of it. And the lens that I'll have on the 6K Pro is, in preference, this. The only other one which I would put on it, well, the only other one which I have that's of any quality is the Canon 1635, which covers that range. That just about covers everything I need. Now, I also have a Helios 44 something or other. Where is it? Yeah, let me see. I have the Helios. This isn't the much vaunted Helios 44-2. This is the Helios 44M4. It's a beautiful example. The focus ring is quite stiff, but that's due to aging lubricants, I think. And I'll probably do a review of this on the 6K Pro again at some point in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Right now, like and subscribe, and look out for that next video. Until next time, we'll see you later.